Encounters of the first kind are described as up-close viewings at 600 feet or less, involving strange craft or lights that cannot be attributed to human technology. Encounters of the second kind involve physical effects seen or felt, heat or radiation, temporary paralysis, and interference with television or radio signals. The third kind is witnessing an actual being at close range. The fourth kind is physical abduction. And the fifth kind is communication, a complete reciprocal connection between an alien intelligence and a human being. Suffolk, Virginia, home to Terrell Copeland, a 25-year-old former United States Marine who has had recent encounters with pulsating orbs of light at close range, orbs that seem to be appearing around him more and more frequently. According to Copeland, they do not appear to be military aircraft from the nearby naval base. And over the past 8 years, Terrell has had these encounters in 3 different areas: the Northwest Naval Base in nearby Chesapeake, his parents' home in Suffolk, and just outside his own apartment.
The story is larger than somebody just seeing some objects in the sky. First of all, the objects are seeing him, and they've kind of focused in on him, and that tells me there's something going on.
I joined the military in the summer of 2000. We were trained to observe. I've seen aircraft that maybe the typical civilian has not seen.
In the winter of 2000, Terrell has an experience that will change his life. Late one night at the Northwest Naval Base in Chesapeake, somewhere between 3 and 4 a.m., Terrell sees a strange object illuminating the field below it with a spotlight.
And I see a light, thinking maybe it's a chopper, but it made no noise, and it was only about 100 feet away. It went from being a yellowish light to a greenish kind of lime color light. It was a flying saucer. It was oval shaped.
Terrell Copeland has had a close encounter of the first kind, a first-hand observation of a UFO at less than 600 feet.
But sightings around Chesapeake Bay are not uncommon. The area is also home to the oldest UFO report in American history, written in a letter sent to Thomas Jefferson in 1813. On July 31st, 1813, Edward Hansford, owner of the Washington Tavern in Portsmouth, Virginia, described his terrifying sighting as, quote, a ball of fire as large as the sun, and the object assumed several different forms as it, quote, ascended and descended. There is no indication that former President Jefferson received this letter, but the letter still exists as proof of strange reported events in this area. Over the past 2 centuries, there has been a flurry of activity in this area. In fact, locals filed 12 reports in 2005 and 2006. On January 29, 2006, the Virginian Pilot newspaper reported, quote, formations over Virginia Beach that switched directions on a dime, massive glowing shapes, and strange triangles hovering over Suffolk. But many of the sightings are made at far-off distances. Terrell Copeland's encounters are happening at much closer range. For him, there's no mistaking these craft for human technology.
When did you make that leap into thinking that we were dealing with some other kind of technology?
I had a sighting back in 2005.
Terrell's second encounter occurs over a 3-night period at the end of October 2005, outside of his parents' home in Suffolk. On October 27th, at approximately 7 p.m., he sees a bluish orb moving across the sky. He can tell it's not a planet or a star, and when it appears again 2 nights later, on October 29th, he attempts to follow it.
I tried to chase it in my car. I was like, I want to see what this is, but it was gone. It left.
On the 3rd night, October 31st, sometime after 11 p.m., deep in the darkness of night, the orb appears again. And this time, Terrell is ready. He follows the object in his car down Constance Road. It leads him to an empty shopping plaza. But what happens next shocks him.
The orb becomes two orbs. As this object moves over my head, I see that it's some type of craft that's larger than the shopping area that I'm in.
In Suffolk, Virginia, Terrell Copeland has seen a mysterious blue orb over 3 nights at the end of October 2005.
I drive up to this orb, the orb becomes two orbs.
By the 3rd night, October 31st, he has followed it to an empty shopping plaza, where something incredible happens. He's about to have his second close encounter. The triangle-shaped craft hovers 500 to 700 feet above Terrell. He notices that the two orbs are actually lights that are part of the craft. The Virginian Pilot newspaper reports his initial reaction. Quote, "At first I thought it was a stealth," referring to the Air Force's distinctively shaped radar-evading bomber. Quote, "But I saw many types of aircraft when I was in the military, and we don't have anything this big."
Terrell has had a number of repeat sightings, all within 600 feet, close encounters of the first kind. These repeated sightings tell me there's much more of the story than meets the eye. He's being led down a path to contact.
But just a year and a half later, Terrell has a third encounter. And according to him, it was very different. On March 5th, 2007, at approximately 8:05 p.m., in total darkness, he feels that something is outside his apartment. He grabs his video camera and heads out to a shocking sight.
It was actually two objects out there, 25 or 35 feet away from me.
The two objects appeared to hover in place, and then one began to behave very strangely.
It looked like a big spear that was changing colors very violently.
A lot of people in the UFO field have said that that sequence of changing colors, it's communicating.
I believe that 100%.
What if the flashing colors were like Morse code? What if this is actually a form of communication that extraterrestrials use to make contact?
Was Terrell recording communication between the two objects? Or were the objects attempting to make contact with Terrell? The team will need to see the actual location to get a better viewpoint.
This is the exact spot right here, March the 5th of 2007. There was a sphere that was whitish in color right over that building right there. And I look in this direction, there's another object here.
As Terrell watches, this second object emits a series of pulsating colored lights. Terrell believes that these pulsing signals were, in fact, a way for that craft to communicate with the other single-colored orb across from it. But as he moves, he notices that the multicolored object also begins to mirror his movement.
As I got in my car, it moved to a position about 30 to 50 feet above the tree line. After I finished filming the footage, the object left because, from what I could see, a military chopper was in the area.
So the helicopter comes in and these other objects leave?
Right. As I turned to look at the chopper, I look back and the object is gone.
Terrell is a former Marine. He is a trained observer. He knows all types of military aircraft. If he tells me that he had an experience that changed his life, I can believe him on that. But I do find it suspicious that we're also in an area where there is a military base nearby.
With Terrell's recurring history of close encounters, the team must get further information. His video will be sent for analysis by Dr. Ted Ackworth, while Bill and Pat further investigate Terrell's escalating experiences. After videotaping his encounter in March of 2007, he receives a visit from a strange individual.
This particular individual really didn't talk about the video at hand. They were more interested in me. They claimed to be a military contractor. They asked me a very strange question. They asked me if I was ready for the truth. And I said, sure, let's hear it. And this particular individual claimed that they have a personal relationship with extraterrestrials. What happened after this long conversation, I dozed off while reading a book. I woke up to someone trying to enter my apartment. My first instinct was to get up and grab my firearm. I clearly heard a voice in the room telling me that I don't need to grab that firearm. I could feel the book in my hands. I could feel myself sitting on the couch, but I could not move at all. After I was able to get movement of my limbs, open the door, and no one was there. After I spoke with this individual, I experienced something that I never would have dreamed of or even thought about, and that's what they call missing time. That particular night and the night after, I woke up at 3:08 a.m. I don't recall a nightmare, I just jumped out of bed. And before I could blink, my alarm clock went off and it was 5:30, time for me to get up.
It's not uncommon for UFO contactees and abductees to report missing time. These individuals consistently report being in one location at the time of the event and finding themselves at another location with no comprehension of the time in between.
Temporary paralysis, that's an indicator of a close encounter of the second kind. Missing time is an indicator of an alien abduction. That's a close encounter of the fourth kind. Is he on a path to make contact?
I'm just worried that we're just talking about a strange person here that's contacted Terrell and is kind of filling him with ideas.
Here's a case where this person is contacting you and giving you a course of study dealing with the human relationship with aliens as the ultimate goal. I've got a funny feeling that you are being recruited, and there is a branch of the government that you're being recruited for, that somehow, some way, you are a hybrid between an ET and a human.
While the notion of alien-human hybrids is highly controversial and unproven, some contactees do claim to have developed unexplained physiological disorders shortly after the reported contacts.
That's very surprising, but at the same time, not so surprising, because the reason I'm not in the military today is because I have an unknown blood disorder.
Terrell's blood disorder is a rare elevation of an enzyme called creatine kinase, which is typically released into the blood in abnormally high amounts when muscle damage occurs in the body. According to the Navy's official medical report, Terrell's CK level was tested to be as high as 2,000 UL. For normal, healthy people, this level rarely reaches above 200. But what causes this elevation of the enzyme in Terrell's blood has remained a mystery.
None of the military doctors at the time had a diagnosis. They were very baffled at it.
Because the military doctors could not find a definitive reason for the elevated enzyme, Terrell was discharged from the military after only 2 years of service. Not long after, Terrell's most recent string of sightings began.
How can you conclude that the guy's a hybrid? I mean, don't you think you're going off the deep end a little bit?
This guy is getting a course of study in how to connect with his alien self.
Listen, wait, you're not helping him. You're not helping him. You're telling me he can summon UFOs now?
You're
telling him he's a
I'm not
hybrid?
telling him.
This
He's
guy
telling
doesn't
me.
need. You're fanning the flames.
He's
hearing voices. He's responding to people on instant messaging. He's taking instructions from people through email. I mean, these are all big red flags, Bill. Hybrids may exist, they may not, but for Bill to say that Terrell is a hybrid, I don't think it's time for that yet. He really is deep into the UFO phenomenon, and he might not be seeing that perhaps Terrell just had an experience, he has some questions, and he really needs some more objective information.
Are Terrell's early levels of close encounters a precursor to a level 5 encounter? Full alien contact? The team concludes that they need to further analyze Terrell's footage and find an answer for his rare blood disorder. As the team delves deeper into the case, Terrell undergoes testing to determine what unknown effects his blood anomaly may be